On the website, we found the form, we've begun recording all our training sessions and stuff, it just helps us out with COVID. So it's Olive, 6-month-old kind of Corso?
Yeah, 6.5, yeah.
6.5? Okay. And it just seemed like general obedience with the obviously very large dog. Yeah.
Yes.
Any behavioral issues?
She sometimes aggressive. When she doesn't get her way, she'll bite.
Okay.
And not real viciously or anything, but she'll bite to get her way. She's trying to be controlling, trying to be the boss.
Sure. When are you seeing this biting?
When she's not getting her way.
I'll
Often.
give you an example.
Yeah.
When she wants to get on the bed at night, and I don't want her on the bed at night, and I push her down, I tell her no, and she will start biting at me.
Sure.
And keep on getting on the bed. Like, this could go on for quite a while.
Sure.
More with her.
Yeah,
Sure.
she listens to him more when he says no.
Sure.
Not me.
Okay.
For me, it's, say we're playing ball, and all of a sudden, if we're paying attention to something else, if my phone rings, the neighbor says hi,
Sure.
she'll attack.
Sure.
So it's attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
That seems
Yeah,
to be what
attention
it is.
seeking.
But again, it's not real vicious. It's just, hey, I'm here. I want to play now. And that's another thing. A lot of, she just need, since right after we got her, they said everyone go home and stay home. Don't talk to nobody. Don't leave your house.
Right.
She's been around other dogs and other people some, but she almost needs, she seems to, need constant attention now.
Oh,
She's
sure.
been home for like 4 months.
Sure. She got used to that.
Exactly. When we go to the store, she's going to start scratching on the door and stuff like that.
Sure.
And we had that pretty much worked out after a week or two, and then they told everyone to stay home, and we did.
Right.
It kind of caused some issues.
For sure. And you're not the only ones. COVID just flipped obviously everything on its head. I had cases that I was working on that were doing great, and then we had to abruptly stop, and then 3 to 4 weeks later, had issues and stuff. Especially those who've gotten puppies.
Yeah.
Because of socialization stuff, exposure, and things like that. Anything else that you're seeing from Olive here that is a concern, or is it pretty much just obedience and attention-seeking, frustration?
That's it. That's really, she's a good dog.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of dogs.
Okay.
But this is her first dog.
When we play, she'll definitely or I'm gardening, she'll run up behind me and jump on me. So
She wants your attention.
yeah. So I would imagine that's kind of obedience training.
Have you guys had a Connie before?
Huh?
Have you had this breed before?
No,
I've
but I've
not
had an
had a
English
dog
Mastiff
before.
before,
Okay.
Mastiff, a couple Rottweilers.
So you've had big dogs,
Yeah.
but this is the first Connie. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Are you going to get her spayed?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you waiting till once she's full grown, or are you waiting for?
Well,
We
she
need to make an
can't really
appointment.
be sure, but she may have just started spotting,
Sure.
like her first.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how I feel about getting it done before she has at least one heat. You know what I mean? I've gone both ways with dogs.
Sure.
And we waited, and it's okay. She wasn't any more aggressive than the other dogs. We got it done early. But she just grabbed all the socks in the house and played mommy.
Sure.
Which actually was good for when we got other dogs, younger dogs.
Sure.
She kind of mommed them, and that was the only thing I noticed. So I kind of wanted to wait for her to get a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Not necessarily full grown, but a little past 6 months.
Sure. I mean, that's still fairly early for a large breed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people wait, I think, till 2 years old or something before they'll do the spay.
I'm thinking, I just wanted her to have at least one heat.
Yeah.
So between 9 and 12 months.
Yeah. In my experience, I've had people do both.
Yeah.
Some will go with their vet and not do it till later on. And then had some do it early, even before the first heat or the first, not first, but they're undeutered.
Right.
And I've not noticed the difference ever
Yeah.
really. The behaviors that you're dealing with are typical puppy behaviors, pretty
Yeah.
standard stuff. So I'm not picking up anything out of the ordinary. Typically with these power breeds, 6 months and a year are where we're going to see psychological shifts or personality shifts, especially with pitties. So the bully type of power breeds is usually around that time frame. And the stuff that you're describing, the barking, a little bit kind of resistant of the bed and being nippy and stuff is standard puppy.
Yeah.
You just happen to have a big puppy. Okay?
Oh, and also biting at the leash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've trained a few of these guys in my career. They're not very common in Chicago. Definitely want to start as soon as you get them. Obviously COVID hit right when you got her. But now, there's no such thing as too late, in my opinion.
Right.
But now is definitely a really good time because if we're going to see testing, it's going to start now.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's 6 months. We actually had, I recently got divorced and I have a pit and a bull mastiff.
Okay.
The bull came up to live with me for about a week and a half. But she has anxiety and wasn't doing well in the city. So we took her back to live with her mom, which is down south.
Sure.
Before 4th of July, had mulch noise for fireworks, so she wouldn't do well with that.
Correct.
But she was kind of being more feisty before we had the bull mastiff here. The bull mastiff sort of put her in her place a few times, like,
Sure.
hey, if you bite me, I'm just going to bite you
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
And she actually calmed down on us quite a bit when the bull mastiff was here. In some ways, I was really sad to see her go. I was like, oh no.
Right, it would be
her
good
teacher
for-
is gone.
For sure. Right? But you can always be your teacher.
Yeah.
It's just the way we teach them different than the way the bull mastiff teach.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
And-
not as fast as the bull mastiff. I would never, but I can't.
Yeah. So, anything else regarding Olive?
No, she's pretty good.
Okay.
She is. I mean, anxiety when we leave.
Yeah.
Definitely anxiety when we leave.
Is she crate trained at all?
No.
No, we attempted to do that, but she really was not having it. And so,
What did that look like? What's
She
that?
got sick. She was vomiting. I mean, certainly peeing and stuff,
Lots
but
of she didn't take to it well at all, and that was the very first day. And so what we did is have her we have a kitchen, not really a dining room, but a pretty big room off to the side. Kind of put a baby gate out and just clean that room up. Basically everything the dog does.
Okay.
So that's her area. But that kind of leads to problems because she thinks that's her area. So when we need to cook in the kitchen, which is part of that room, she'll be right next to us. And she got better and better about that.
Okay.
But at first she was like jumping on the counter, and she does jump on the counter now.
Still
If
does.
we leave food out or something like that. But that's kind of human behavior. That, we know better than to leave something in a reach.
Gotcha.
We have a crate, but this one's too small. We need to get another one.
For sure.
I'm not sure how I feel about it because at this point she sees it as a punishment. You know what I mean? We do put her in there sometimes, but only when we have to.
Sure.
And usually when she's being pretty bad, we try not to because she sees it as a punishment. Unless she's doing something that warrants it, we try not to.
When you first put her in there, right? How old was she? Was it just when you got her? When you tried to use the kennel?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then right off the bat, did you notice these issues?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what happened, the people we got her from, the woman carried her out to the standards. And she abandoned this dog for sure.
Yeah.
The dog had been held.
For sure.
And so wasn't going to put up with being left alone in a box.
Yes.
Or at the house.
So that's not good on the breeder. Good breeder will start the training and all that stuff.
This wasn't a breeder. This was a couple who had the mom and dad that had puppies.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Gotcha.
I don't really think there's there's such a thing as a bad dog if you get on them early and train them right.
Correct.
The only thing that I really feel we did miss out on is the socialization with other dogs.
For sure.
I mean, we walked her enough, and I didn't feel real scared of people reaching down to pet her. We could stay far enough away from them. If they were okay with it, we were okay with it. For the first few weeks, we weren't. But she's pretty good around people and other dogs. I mean, if another dog looks up, she basically lays down. Like, I'm a good dog, come on over. I'm not going to jump.
You're non-threatening.
Right,
same
right.
thing with babies and little kids. She lays down like, come see me.
For sure.
Yeah, she's friendly. She
And
wants to
she
be.
does jump on people. So when we have people over, she jumps on them. She jumps on us.
Sure.
Well, I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I've been working on that my whole life.
Sure.
So I'm trying to think of everything. But she's really good. She's really sweet.
She does that because she can tell Sheree comes over or Riley.
Sheree tries to get her down. I don't think Sheree's over to her.
Would you? Sorry, take care of that one. So, sorry, a lot going on. So, so from what I'm picking up here, I see the standard dog for the most part, aside from the things that you're having issues with.
Yeah.
That can always change. Okay, I'm not trying to scare you, but I always make people aware of that because they typically take it as face value. The dog I have today is the dog I have tomorrow, and she could have a bad experience. The dog could run up on her. Something. I had one dog that dropped pan. After they dropped the pans, the dog was just super flighty. So in most scenarios, it's as long as you're addressing it or being proactive, especially at this age, you're fine. But life's going to happen at some point.
She's pretty chill. She sat on the back porch with me before. watch the circles.
Sure.
I've never had a dog that was that calm.
Sure.
Like noise going on.
For sure.
So I know what you mean. I try to keep an eye on her when we're out because other dogs might not be so calm, and owners might not be so responsible. You
Sure.
know, letting them run around
For sure.
without a leash or something like that.
Absolutely.
But I don't. I have had a couple truly aggressive dogs.
Gotcha.
They weren't aggressive breeds. They
Sure.
were just your average dog. You know.
Yeah.
But you're right. Things can change on a dime.
Correct.
You never really know what it takes to get a dog to go past that point. But once they do, there's little you can do about it. I mean,
Depends. I'm known for working with aggression, so
I couldn't find anyone like that
For sure.
Really, she'd already been a few people. Well, the boy had already been a few people.
yeah.
The other one, we went through a lot of different stuff, including like behavioral therapy and medication and stuff.
Yeah, that's something.
She just made it worse.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, so like in Chicago, not to sound like egotistical or anything like that, but like I get a lot of other trainers' dogs.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll get people to say like, I've had 5 trainers say to euthanize my dog, my vet said to euthanize the dog, and I'll say you don't have to. And in some cases we 180 them, and they're like back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
The owner knows a lot more, they have the tools and everything. In other cases, the owner has a lot more control, but I'll tell them like this is still, you know, a dog that you have to be mindful of, because it's I'm not going to have 100% success rate, right? Nobody does.
Right.
But my success rate is much higher than everybody else's, because that's what I went to Miami for. I stayed with Richard Hines. I've been working with dog aggression for 25 years. I studied his methods, and I spent 3 weeks with them and stuff like that. And I saw some crazy ass dogs, you know.
Yeah.
So, but that's neither here or there with this particular dog. But you know, down the line, if something ever becomes concerning, I tell everybody, always let me know, and I'll tell you whether or not it's an issue and if it needs to be addressed. A lot of times it's just feelings, and then I look at the context, did it make sense? So, a dog, I feel like there's an unrealistic expectation of my dog should love everyone and everything.
Oh, I don't want my dog to love everyone and everything.
Sure, you want a bit of a protector, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want an out of control dog.
I want a dog to know when to be protected. And most of my allegedly aggressive dogs know exactly that, and their babies otherwise.
Sure, you know. So, before reaching out, did you guys do any research on me? Any reading up on my methods and stuff like that?
I did some. I was looking for a dog trainer that we did one video session with someone.
Sure.
And it was not particularly helpful.
Okay.
And I don't want to do video. It's just, I don't find that helpful.
Sure.
So it seemed like you had good success rates with bigger, more aggressive dogs, you know?
Sure.
So
So, I'm primarily known for using an e-collar. Okay, that's my go-to tool. When she's at the perfect age, I start puppies at 6 months.
Yeah, I don't really like those. I've used those. I don't want a pinch collar. That, you know, in fact, I plan on keeping on her throughout life. But I'd rather avoid the electronic collars.
Okay.
Because one of the dogs I had that was fine for a while and then something going insane is because of an electric fence putting it in the beds.
Sure, electric fence
And
is
it was,
different.
it was the dog. The dog had the issue already, but it never would have come up had we not used that electric fence.
Sure.
And I've been leery since then.
Sure. So I've been using electric collar for 10 years. Okay. There's like this theory of, it makes dogs more aggressive, right? And not everybody uses it the way that I use it. Okay. I only train using a remote collar, okay, or pinch collar, and pinch every now and then. The reason why I don't do food, especially at this point, is when you're in this setting, food goes out the window. If your dog were to become aggressive or territorial, food doesn't always snap them out of that state of mind, right? Now I've trained in Chicago probably about 4 Canes now. Okay, the last one I trained was January, February, earlier this year. Okay, and it was the same. It was a blue Cane, about 6 to I think 8 months, unneutered male. And then they got 2 puppies. They got him with a tiny little Yorkie, so they made quite the pair. But he was a nervous Cane, you know, and I told them right at the bat, I'm like, if you don't get this addressed now, this is going to be an issue when he's full grown. Okay. Now the reason why I go towards remote collar is because then you're relying on a lot of physicality if you lose control of your dog, right? And she's going to get what, 130 pounds, right? So if she starts lunging at the end of that leash, I hope you're strong, because she's going to have a lot of leverage over you because of she's lower to the ground. Our center of gravity is here. So if we're having our leash, she's she's going to bring us down. You may be able to control her, but you may not, right? That's where remote collar comes into play. So like, I had a couple that I worked with a few years ago. They had a German Shepherd, 120 pounds, female, dog reactive, lived in Winnetka. They're about 67 years old, right? The lady was probably like this big. And I'm like, why would you get a German Shepherd? You know, I'm like, why don't you get a smaller dog? But I'm not
Maybe
here to
they
judge.
always had him and they just got past the point of being able to do it.
You know, but thankfully that dog was super sensitive that they were able to do the remote collar. We fixed all the issues and we didn't have to worry about physical strength. Okay. When people talk about the dog becoming more aggressive is in cases where the person or the trainer does not know how to use e-collar. Now there are plenty of trainers that use e-collar. Plenty of trainers in Chicago use e-collar. I've trained lots of their dogs post their training because they don't know how to use it correctly. People tend to use it as a punisher. So what that means is, if I say sit, and I've done all the training with food, and the dog doesn't sit because they're distracted, people will blast them with the collar as a punisher. If you don't sit, you punish, right? That's what creates issues, because dogs don't know how that works. Okay, so if my mom said, Jesse, clean up your room or I'm gonna spank you, if I didn't clean up my room and she spanked me, I could tie those two things together. Right. The dog doesn't do that. Okay, so what we do is what's called pressure work. Have you ever pulled up on the collar and pushed down on the butt to make a dog sit? Yeah. Yeah, that's pressure. It's physical pressure, right? And as soon as they sit, you resolve the pressure, it goes away, and the dog goes, oh, when I feel this, if I do this, everything stops, right? That's the exact same way we use the remote collar. Okay? Have you ever been to a physical therapist or a chiropractor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had stim?
Yeah.
Yep. It's the same technology. Okay? So the difference between a training e-collar and an electric fence is electric fences are meant to keep a dog in containment.
Right.
So the consequence is harsh because we cannot risk the dog getting out, right? With the controlled training collar, you choose the intensity, and the intensity goes is contingent on the environment. Okay. So yesterday I started a black lab mixed puppy, 6 months, probably about 35 to 40 pounds. And we went, the session was, I believe, we went as high as 68 or 78 because the dog got really nervous with bites and stuff. But then after the dog started learning, it went down to 28. And the training session is on YouTube. Okay, you can watch it uncut, unedited, and go, oh wow, that's how it progressed, right? Because of the context. But once we broke through all the nervousness and the dog was able to receive the communication, our number dipped down tremendously, right? So it's the same thing here. I don't know what Olive's number is going to be. She knows, okay? The way we use it is from beginning to end. So I shape everything through the remote collar. So if you end up remoting her because she forgot to sit, she doesn't see it as a punisher, she sees it as a reminder. Oh, you forgot to put your butt down when we came to a stop, okay? So it's all, any tool can be misused, any tool can quote unquote become dangerous. A baseball bat, if you misuse it, you know, it's meant to play baseball, but you can also break windows with it, right? Same thing with the e-collar. And that's why we've also been recording and putting everything on YouTube so people can see this is how it works. People's perception is typically the dog is going to roll around in pain, and you see the videos and you're like, oh, that's not the case at all. On occasion we get a dog that yelps, of course, but then we adjust the number and then we move on, the dog's fine. She's meant to be bitten. So like when you say with your bull mastiff, right? I'm assuming nips and bites to put her in her place, or growls, things like that, right? So she's using, the female bull, yeah, she was using physicality to put Olive in her place. So like when she's getting frustrated with you, with trying to move her from the bed, right now it's just, hey, back away. But as that confidence grows and she gets bigger and that ego grows, it may not always be so subtle, okay? Questions? Yeah. Right? I'm not trying to scare anybody.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I've always had at least one real major confrontation with my mastiffs and their Rottweilers.
Sure.
Pitties don't seem to do that. As mean as everyone seems to think they are, they get right away, who's the boss.
Right. So pitties were bred to be very handler friendly because when they would bring them into the fighting ring, they couldn't afford to have a dog that would pat down.
Right.
Canes, bull mastiffs and stuff are bred to be more confident to protect territory. So if you're not more confident than them, you're gonna have an issue.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
There's been at least one like, okay,
exactly.
now we gotta go.
That's the
wrestle.
conversation.
You gotta actually play dog for a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm 50. Last time I did this, I think I was 30.
Sure. You know.
I can do it, but I don't know that she can.
Correct.
And this is her first dog, so it's like trial by fire.
Sure.
I feel pretty confident that when that moment comes, it'll be okay and we'll have it once.
Sure.
Without hurting the dog. I never hurt any of the others. Just dominate them and make it clear, I've got you, I'm always going to have you.
Correct.
Anytime you want to try, this is how you're going to end up.
Correct.
And they never tried it.
Correct.
One Rottweiler did it again the very next day, but that was it.
Sure.
He never bit anyone. He never was aggressive to anyone.
Sure. You know.
They do all seem to have their moment, and it's between 6 months and a year. It seems.
Yep.
They're not quite full grown.
Correct.
Which is good, because if they were, it might be a lot harder to handle.
Yes, and that's why I tell people when you get these power breeds, you start at 2 months, ideally, right? But they're like blank slates. So the way I explain it to people is like, my mom was super strict with me growing up, and like even as a grown man, like if I'm in her home and she were to say like wash the dishes, like I would respect that and wash the dishes, right? Because it's so ingrained in me that I'm not gonna go back on it. It's the same thing with these power breeds. I tell people at 2 months, you're dominating and putting lots of boundaries because you raise them respecting you. So when they are, 130, 40-pound dog, they don't know that. They're just like, since I was a puppy, you've always won. So I'm just going to, submit to you, right? And it makes winning battles a lot easier. When I get cases where like it's 2 years later, full-grown dog, and then the owner wants to establish it, I'm like, good luck. Because if that dog decides to retaliate with physicality,
Yeah.
you gonna win that fight? Probably not.
I don't like getting too physical with her. I'll grab her, and I'll push her down and hold her down. Not choking her, but I'll
Sure.
push her down and hold her down by her
Right.
neck. And be like, no, dog, you're not going to do this. And my son lives here and does the same thing.
Sure.
His kid is almost a black belt. Real quick without
Yeah.
hurting the dog.
Right.
Sometimes I got to fight her a little bit to get her down. And
Right.
I don't really like that because she thinks that's a game.
Yes.
And it's not.
And that's
I'm only
common.
doing it because she beats the rest of it.
Right.
But then she thinks, oh, okay, so when I do that, that starts this game. And I really like to get away from that.
Yeah. So when it comes to like, let's say you have physicality, which is what I would describe that as.
Yeah.
We have pinch and we have e-collar. Out of all those things, the e-collar is the least confrontational because the dog doesn't know where it's coming from.
Right.
Okay. With the pinch collar, it's a better tool. We might even use them in conjunction, but don't think of it as you're yanking the dog. It's kind of there in case you need physical control.
Right.
So like, I had a young lady. She was probably like 90, maybe 100 pounds. I think she was 5'0" with a 140-pound Great Dane. Okay, and she needed both e-collar and prong collar because I told her if you turn the corner and you see a dog and this dog goes nuts, you need the prong for that immediate control while you do the e-collar to get the dog to settle, right? So I've been through a ton of situations with people that I can kind of foresee potential things, right? But everything is done through remote, but the remote is used when you need it, okay? So I don't want you to think your dog is living with it on 24/7.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
And the bull mastiff, when she lived up here in Chicago before, we needed the prong collar and the thing set up on 5. And we were going to take her for a walk.
Oh, sure.
She got worse and worse the longer we lived here, and there were some neighbors that really were out of their minds because they played the game and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I hope I can hold this dog, you idiot.
Sure.
I'm doing my best.
Sure, yeah.
And so we had to get her out of the stick. And this was last time. We tried again. It was kind of going the same way. And before I put that shock collar back on her, I sent her back to look at her mom. It seemed like, there's a big yard there. It was not a problem. So it made more sense.
Some
I'm
dogs
not totally against it. I just wanted to let you know. But
Sure.
I like your information.
So the reason why I jump to it, so for most trainers it's the last resort. For me it's the first resort. Okay? Because it's the easiest thing. I know if we do food, you're not going to get here.
Right.
Okay? I know if we do slip chain, you have to be physically stronger. Prong collar, technically still have to be physically stronger. E-collar removes a lot of that. In terms of application, inside the home, for instance, when she's on the bed, that's going to be the trickiest scenario. Okay? The way I go about something like that is cueing some kind of move command from off. So it's like clear off the space, but you have nothing to do with her. It's all done through remote. Okay, so she respects that command. You say something?
What I do now, and 50-50 at least, probably 75%, is make her get down. Grab her collar and say, no, get down. She has a bed in front of the people.
Sure.
And I'll start petting her. You know what I mean? Because really, she's like, she doesn't necessarily want to be in the bed. She wants attention. She's not quite ready to lay all the way down and go to sleep. She knows it's coming in a couple minutes. And usually if I start petting her and get her attention with one of her toys, like she has this little lamb toy that she takes to bed with every night. Sure. She calms down, and like last night, it wasn't an issue.
Right, but I don't want an issue, period.
Yeah.
I don't want 50% of the time. I don't want 75% of the time. I want as close to 100 as possible.
And that's not how it works with me.
Sure.
It's 0% of the time with me.
Yes.
So,
and that's the other thing I got. My job is, right? My job is to get consistency amongst both people, right? I get this a lot of times, especially with the males, because they can physically control the dog. It's like, well, dog listens to me. I'm like, well, the problem isn't with you. The problem is with the other person, and we have to resolve that issue, right? So both people would have to be on the same page, use the same techniques, use the same tools to create consistency. Otherwise, what happens is you're going to take steps forward, you're going to take steps back. Okay. This is nothing that's ordinary for me. This is pretty standard stuff, especially with this type of breed. The Canine that I told you about earlier, the blue one, the wife was actually attacked by a dog when she was growing up, and she hated large breed dogs. Okay. So I came into a very awkward situation because I was like, why would you get a Canine Corso when you know your wife was attacked and also doesn't like large breed dogs, you know? But because we're remote, it gave her a lot more confidence because she saw I have control and I don't need to be super strong, okay? You just press the button at the appropriate number and you get the result, okay? The issue they did struggle with is that the husband, because he was like 6 foot something and he was a farmer, a very strong man, no problem with the dog. Right? Because you can just bully the dog all over the place. So I was like, it's not going to transfer to your wife because one, your wife's already scared of large dogs and also with the cat. Right? So there's a psychological thing as well. So with the case like this, in terms of how long and how much, it just depends on how much control that you want. Okay? If the issue or your main concern is we don't want any tension, right? We don't want any frustration, barking or nipping, or the jumping on you, like you said, when you turn your back, right? Because a potential here is, because dogs don't see species, they just see sex, male and female, right? Is that if she flips and decides one day, like, this is my person with you, now you're competition.
we've got that.
Okay? So that's what things get even trickier. Okay? And definitely both have to be on the same page, because if we're not, he could unintentionally empower her, and then we're stuck in a very, let's say, not good thing. Okay? So I don't want any yelling. I don't want any overuse of force. I don't want any frustration. I just want to say something and you do it. Right? There's no conflict there. Remote is the only tool that's going to allow you to do so. Okay? You also get off-leash control if you want that much training. In terms of how I go about addressing this case, the way I train is I go, what do you want? What do I think you need? This is what it is. Okay. If your main concern is the behavioral stuff inside the home, no competition, do what I say, and then you need control outside, probably good with just a 6-week program with 6 classes 1 day a week. Okay? 2 classes would go over the heel, which is walking with no tension. We typically always cover recall, and then the other 2 would be going over any behavioral stuff. But what we've also done with COVID is we've added 2 internet sessions. Okay. Now I know you said you didn't like the previous trainer. Okay.
She wasn't giving us bad advice. She kept not I tried.
Oh, sure.
Timeouts are okay for some dogs, but
Yeah, timeout, in my opinion, is just garbage. Don't worry. Dogs don't think like that. Like they think so, with the internet stuff, it's simple because of remote color. That's the biggest reason. Okay, is remote color. Once you understand it, it's easy to apply it. So, like for instance, I have a pug right now, 18 pounds, is a resource guard. So if he's got a bone, forget about it, right?
Yeah.
And we did the Zoom session literally like 2 days ago, and the owner thought like it was gonna be really bad. It was super easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other thing is just that we have to do it on one of our phones, so it's really tiny. You know?
Oh, sure.
We don't have like a webcam on either one of our computers.
Oh, you don't have like a camera? Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So I think the one time we tried to do it, hooking the phone up to the TV, and it was
We could see her pretty big. She gets small.
Interesting.
It
Okay.
worked. I think it worked.
Sure. So with the in-home stuff, it's easier because once you understand how to do it and how remote collar works, it's just explanation. And if you need to show me a couple of things, like it's not, I would say, difficult.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, all right, put the dog in the bed. Okay, now put the number to this. Okay, have the leash on. Okay, now say off. Now do this.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. If you want more control, 9-week is you get the on-leash, like walking, you get the recall stuff, and then when we get is stationary control. So like if I say olive down, it's down, don't move for 2 to 3 hours. Okay. Now you do have to practice and you do have to apply it, but it's very easy to do because of remote collar. Okay. The 12-week program is completely off leash, heel, recall, down, sit, place, stay, all that stuff. So in terms of what applies to you is really just a personal preference. Okay, if your issue is we just want this dog to like be good in the home, we don't want confrontation, and we want control and go outside, then it's the 6-week program. Okay. Now if something pops up and it's like, hey, this happened, we're really concerned about it, I'll shift gears. I don't have a problem with it, as long as we've done the first class for leash walking.
Yeah.
But if we end up spending a couple of classes on that particular subject, we may not cover everything. So then you'll probably have to, of course, extend. Otherwise, if you do your 6 classes and then your Zooms and you're like, hey, this is great, we're happy, I go, great, thank you. Okay. Questions about that? In terms of like your life with Olive, what does that look like? Typically, like if you had what you wanted, what would your life with Olive look like?
We have different ideas. I like some space. I think it'd be great if we could leave her for a while and go on a bike ride or go to the store, or if I can, like today we're cleaning and she's crying because we're not in with her, in the room with her.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I would like for her to not be very as needy.
Gotcha. So one thing we want to do here is definitely start incorporating the crate, okay, but correctly. She's had an issue with this since the get-go. I think you're correct in your assumption of they brought the dog out carrying,
That's
right?
the only thing I saw, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
I've had dogs in the past who I saw them grow from 5 weeks to 5 years, and their mothers treated them like babies the whole time.
Yep.
And they act like babies the whole time.
Right. So, and these guys mature very quickly.
Yeah.
And at 3 to 4 weeks, if you leave them within the litter, they start biting each other and dominating each other and putting each other in their place. But when you put them with people, people see this cute little fluffy animal and they just coddle it, and that creates issues. Okay. So, we definitely want to incorporate the crate. We want to start living life as if COVID wasn't around. So if you did like a 9 to 5, what I've told all my clients with puppies right now is crate the puppy from 9 to 5. So that when they go back to work, whenever that day comes, they're not scrambling at the end to try to find a solution because the dog's not used to it, right? So even though you're present, the dog's getting used to from 9 to 5, I'm crated and we're separate. If there are any issues like whining and stuff, with e-collar, you can correct it. Okay? And I would give you other tools to correct her. We'll have to see how that plays out because they are more confrontational.
Yeah.
But if you start that now, and if you mean it, and we get that point across now, I don't perceive any issues. Okay. But the longer we shy away from that stuff, the more or difficult it's going to be over the course of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you also want to think, what if you go out of town?
Right.
And you need to leave her with somebody, and they have to kennel her, or you should leave her at a boarding facility, you're going to have to kennel her.
I had a dog sitter, but I don't think I've done that before. One dog came home without a tooth.
Oh,
I
sure,
left her in
sure.
the cage all weekend and she chewed on it.
Shoot on it? Yeah.
So-
But that's what I'm saying, right? So if they're not crate trained,
Yeah.
they're going to get the issues.
No, this one was crate trained.
Oh, I see.
This one, liked her crate. It was her cave. You know what I mean? When people came over, there was too many humans in the house. That's where she went to get away from all this.
Sure. Just stressing the
This
unknown
is-
environment.
Yeah, we didn't keep her in there 8-10 hours at a time.
Right.
One thing about crates. Would you recommend the see-through cage style or the plastic enclosed style?
So think of like the wire kennels.
Yeah.
As for like long-haired breeds, there's more airflow.
Yeah.
And then there's the plastic style, which is for airplane travel, but then also for like short-haired breeds to kind of reduce airflow in case it gets too cold, right? It's really personal preference. The ones we use in my facility are all wire. I'm not a fan of the glass ones, just because I want the dog to have some level of separation, right? And I feel like either the plastic ones give the most because it's more enclosed,
Right.
whereas the wire ones, there's still some visibility. But that's like the general kind of thought process on what they're meant for. It's really just what do you want in your home set up, right? Because it's going to be a pretty big kennel.
It just, either way, it's a cage.
Yeah,
And the wire ones look a lot more like a cage.
yeah.
But is that me reading into that, or the dog scared?
Dogs don't care. Yeah, no, dogs have no idea of like humans. If like we have this Gucci purse versus this Walmart purse, but they look exactly the same, you know, the person's gonna want the Gucci, right?
Yeah.
You know what that symbolizes. Dogs don't. Okay, my dogs have been in plastic crates, wire crates, and then recently I got them a nice wooden cherry wood kennel, but that was for me.
Yeah.
The dog don't care, right? But it made it look nicer in the home.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Where'd you get that?
I got it online. If you just like search like wooden kennel or something like that, now it's starting to become more popular because people are wanting to. Now dogs are becoming like an accessory, and they want everything associated with dogs to look nice and things like that. There's even like a $1,500 Italian leather leash, apparently. You know, so
I don't need that.
Yeah.
But a wooden kennel sounds nice because she will be big, and it's hard to find one that's that's big enough.
the only issue I would see with her in the wooden kennel is that, to be honest with you, it's not that secure.
Oh,
Okay. Now my pit was fine because she's fully kennel trained and has been kennel trained since she was a puppy. So when I put her in there, it was no big deal. Also, if there's any issues with chewing and stuff, she can chew right through that wood.
Oh,
There it is.
yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She hasn't really hit any furniture or anything, but I'm on her about it.
Sure.
I try not to leave her in the room alone too much because that's happened before. And we keep a lot of chew toys, things that are appropriate for her to chew on around.
Sure.
So she has plenty of stuff to put her mouth on. Really, it's chewing on us that's driving us nuts.
Yeah, that way we just correct.
But
She doesn't mess with
rocks, and
Rocks. She does like to pick rocks
pieces
up.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, all that stuff is the standard dog stuff, right? Like, because she's not meant to be on a leash with the collar on, right? She's meant to be, she's not even meant to look like that. She's meant to look like a wolf or a coyote or dingo, whatever it is that they bred, right? And they would chew on rocks and bark and stuff like that. But obviously, you don't want your dog to get sick or ingest something because then she may potentially die or get sick, right? So, all that stuff can be corrected, okay? Stopping behaviors is quote unquote easier because it's just aversive to stop something, right? So like, I don't run red lights because I don't want a ticket, right? I don't speed because I don't want a ticket, right? I don't rob grocery stores or whatever because I don't want to get arrested, go to jail, plus it's wrong, right? So for dogs, they don't have that concept of right or wrong. They have a concept of what does my authority figure allow me to do and what they don't allow me to do, right? So as long as like obviously chewing sticks is a pretty common one that people disagree with. There's certain things that I go, no, if that was the case, you shouldn't have a dog. Like I had a lady that said, I don't like when my dog sniffs other dogs' butts. Can we stop that? And I said, why did you get a dog? Right? Like that's how dogs greet each other, right? But if it's like, I don't want my dog nipping at me, jumping on me, mouthing me, like absolutely, you can correct that stuff. You're just asking for, or not asking, but commanding respect.
Chewing sticks, I'm absolutely okay with. Chewing on the deck or on furniture,
Sure.
no. So,
Hold on.
and most of my dogs seem to know the difference after a while. You know what I mean? But that's something I want to make sure.
Yeah, and right now she's probably teething,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we get the what I call the correct and redirect. I correct what I don't want her to chew on. So like, don't chew on my furniture,
Right.
and then I redirect to you can chew on this.
Right, exactly.
Right. So you have to have both. Most people do the redirect, which is, hey, don't chew that, chew on this instead. But the dog's like, yeah, but when I chew over here, you give me attention because you're trying to stop the behavior. So then they'll keep opting for that as opposed to the object you're trying to trade them with. So that's why we have to correct the behavior we don't want and then say, don't do that. Here's something, do this instead.
So you do that with the e-collar?
Yeah. Or
So
other.
you always have to have the thing on you then?
No, there's other forms of correction. That's what I mentioned earlier, that they're more confrontational.
Okay.
And to explain the process is a whole session in itself.
Yeah.
But I go over it with all my puppy owners because, yes, I don't want, inside the home, you shouldn't need to have the e-collar, like 24/7. I look at it as when I need it, I have it. So if I'm going to take her out for a nice walk, I want to have it on. It doesn't mean you're always using it. It's just present. So the most kind of common analogy that I give is you guys drive, Yep.
Yeah,
You go on the
not much,
expressway?
but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you go to speed limit?
Some of us.
Some of us,
I
right?
do,
Yeah.
usually.
So the answer 90% of the time is no, I don't. Right? Unless there's an authority figure or a cop. Right? So not even humans are 100% reliable when it comes to behavior things, right? If we're opportunistic, if we can get away with it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Dogs are the same way, right? So inside the home, it's usually pretty simple stuff. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, right? That's easy. Outside is you got dogs, people, bikes, scents, all that stuff going on, rabbits, squirrels, that you want to be able to have the control in case something happens.
Yeah.
But in most cases, it's just present, and if the owner needs it, they have it.
I have a friend who trained his dog with one. The batteries died and things start getting ratty, so he just put a wood block on a regular collar. So the dog thinks it has it on.
Sure.
And it's been years like this.
That's funny.
Well, it works.
Yeah.
Because it's
psychological.
like you said, it's in their head. Once they think, if I do this, that's going to sting me.
Sure.
I'm not going to do that.
Sure. So you mentioned a collar that went to 5, right?
I have 2. They both go to 10.
Okay, 10.
Yeah.
So the ones
I've
that
never
I
gone
use,
past 5 on it. I've done myself with both of them. That's probably enough.
sure, depending on the dog.
Yeah.
Right? Every dog's different. So my collars go to 127.
Okay.
Okay, so what that means is
What you doing,
your
baby?
10.
A lot more granular
Yes,
setting. Okay.
I have 117 more breaks. So 10
Yeah.
and 127 are the same. I just have more dividends, okay? Or divisions. So we can really fine tune it to the dog. So because with those types of collars, I've had dogs where 5 is too much and 4 is too little,
Yeah.
and you're stuck.
Yeah.
You need that in between, right? So we want to put her on a professional grade collar. They are more expensive, but they last a lot longer.
Yeah.
I've had mine for 8 years, no issues. The only issue I've had is what you said, the battery died.
Yeah.
I went online, $20, replace it, you're good to go, and then you get more life out of it.
I've got one that uses 2 of those little flat batteries in the collar, and then I think 2 more at the remote. They die pretty quick.
Yeah.
I have another one that's rechargeable, and it's okay.
Yeah, ours
Here, sit.
typically, if I didn't charge it regularly,
Yeah.
it would last me about 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay, probably longer, but in terms of how much you're using it, that's like the biggest factor.
I got to where I charged it after we'd come back because it died before, and you really don't want that when you have an unruly dog.
You need it to be fun. Like, so these are super reliable.
Okay.
I've had very few issues with them in 10 years of using this particular brand. Now, the model I would recommend for you, they just discontinued. Okay, so I would strongly suggest, because you can still find them.
Right.
Okay, like on eBay and stuff, and there's still new ones. They're still the same price, but the supply is running very low. I got on them about it, like, hey, this is your best collar. Like, these dogs need that particular collar because it's meant for 70-pound dogs over.
Right.
Okay, so we would send you 2 models, and then I'll do a little bit of research and then say, tell Maria, like, send this to them. I highly suggest if you can get the higher powered one, you do so. Okay, you'd rather have it and not need it, especially when you're gonna have a dog that's gonna be 130, 120 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the collars aren't cheap. They're about $352 with tax. You'll probably get a little bit cheaper on eBay or something, even new.
350 you said?
Huh?
You said 350?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, but they last years. I've had mine for 8 years. Only issue is charged with lithium battery. It does wear out. $20 replacement. You're perfectly good to go. Okay, fully waterproof system, and it's a mile range. Okay, the one below that is for 70-pound dogs and under. Okay,
Come here, baby.
obviously
No,
she's
that's
going to be
not
much
for you. That's not for you.
much bigger than 70 pounds. So that's why we're wanting to get the higher powered one. I'm in the process of trying to find a substitute. The only other thing that I've currently thought of was to take a lower powered collar, and you can get a second receiver and pair it. So there's 2 receivers to 1 remote. Okay, so you can create the output of a strong collar for actually the same price, but now your dog has 2 boxes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really the aesthetic thing that people have an issue with. Like, I don't want my dog to have 2 boxes on. I'm like, well, you have a 150-pound dog, we're going to kind of need it, okay?
Yeah.
So if we have a hard time with that, I would help you get that set up. We would start off with one first, see how it works. If we don't need that second collar, you're perfect, okay?
Yeah.
But I always like to opt for having it and not needing it, okay? Because then if you get the wrong one, and then you have to exchange it, then you're wasting time and you're spending more money, right? So there's a lot of issues there. The prong collar, we'll play that by ear, see how she progresses. But in terms of what you're needing, I feel like you're in that 6 class range, unless you're needing more obedience type control, then you have that 9 and 12 week program. Okay? Questions? Careful.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, but it looked like she's about to get away from you.
Maria will get in contact with you. She'll reiterate everything I said to you. She'll give you a breakdown of prices. Just real quick, I know the 8 week is $825. I'm sorry, 8 week, the 6 week, $825. 9 is $1175. 12 is $1550. Plus, you get 2 Zooms on top of that.
Right.
Okay.
You know what, I do have a question. So if we don't get that e-collar and use the one we have for the meantime,
I wouldn't even do it.
we wouldn't even do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's on my website
Okay.
because I've in the past tried it, and you're either wasting classes
Okay.
or I'm sitting there with the dog jumping all over the place because it's the only thing that makes the dog listen.
Okay.
Right? I'm stubborn, but it's because I've had years of experience
Yeah.
and I know what it ends up being like.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. So then she'll get in touch with you, reiterate everything. A portion of your consultation fee, I believe it's 100, gets credited towards your program.
Yes.
So you also have that. Okay. We'll do some research. I know I saw some of that particular model collar on eBay for sale because I actually need to purchase one for a rescue dog that we're working with.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick one up. Otherwise, if for whatever reason you can't get that one, I'll come back with the other model. It is cheaper, and we'll see what we get with just that model. And then if I go, hey, we're going to have to expand to a second collar, you're probably going to end up paying the same price, but your dog is just going to have 2 boxes instead.
Yeah.
Okay. It's super rare that I've had to do that. I've had 2 cases in my career. One was a 150-pound Rottweiler. The other one was a 150-pound bully breed, which is like a new breed that's coming out now. That were so aggressive they needed 2 collars to go off to shut down the aggression. Okay. Obedience-wise, we've never had that issue, but they've always had the collar that I'm recommending. But now we may not have that as an option. Okay. Anything
What's
else?
the brand?
Dog truck. Dog truck.
Dog truck?
DOGTRA. Correct. Yeah. It's the best training tool in my opinion. There's another one called E-Collar Technologies. They're a very good brand as well, but in the past I had issues with them, that particular collar, making the dog more agitated or aggressive, and as soon as I switched to Dog Truck, it made a world of a difference.
Oh,
Okay, so it's a good brand,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, I've just like turned away from it because of those experiences. So, anything else?
No.
Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you want to learn more about how we train, I encourage everybody to go to our YouTube channel. You get to see uncut, unedited training videos. I'm using e-collar for all of them except for one client that used a prong collar, and they're yanking their dog all over the place, and then they ultimately switched to e-collar, and it's been so much easier since.
Ah, right. Okay.
And they just had a golden doodle. Okay, a very easy dog, quote unquote, but him and the prong collar just was not clicking. And then they're an elderly couple, so we switched to the remote collar, and it's made a world of a difference for them.
Yeah.
Okay? Otherwise, we'll be in touch. We'll get in contact. She'll send those prices, and then you decide yay or nay. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. She do that because she did that twice already, where she puked up water.
Oh.